Hello and welcome. I am Christina Sima, Product Manager for TransferCFT. The scope of this session is to present the billing metrics for customers using TransferCFT on a subscription basis and how to collect and report those metrics. Quick reminder what the billing metrics for TransferCFT are. The usage metric for the TransferCFT subscription is the CFT file transfer. A CFT file transfer means that a file is sent to or received by the CFT from another system. At least one TransferCFT is involved with a maximum of 2 CFTs. The TransferCFT usage metrics are determined based on specific criteria to ensure accurate measurement of file transfers. Only successful transfers contribute to the usage count. TransferCFT calculates additional transfer counts in specific scenarios. If a file is sent to multiple partners, each recipient is recorded as a separate transfer. Similarly, when a file is downloaded multiple times, each download is counted individually. Additionally, if a group of files is sent using the Send Each File Separately option, each file within the group is counted as a distinct transfer. Here are some samples on how CFT transfers are calculated. You may have a file transferred between CFT1 and CFT2. One transfer will be considered for billing purposes for both CFTs. Or you may have a hub between the CFT source and CFT target. The hub is of type CFT. In this case, 2 transfers will be counted, one for the transfer between CFT source and hub, and the second between the CFT hub and the CFT target. As you may know, when TransferCFT is used on a subscription basis, the metric quantity defined in the contract is the max quantity that may be consumed per month. In the sample you see, during the subscription period for each month, the customer is entitled to use up to 38,000 multiplied by 1,000 transfers, so 38 million transfers. As you have seen, TransferCFT usage metrics are counted across the TransferCFT instances operating in your production environment. For this reason, a centralized solution is required to collect and process this data. TransferCFT provides usage reporting via Event Router 3.0, an event-based data tracking application. Axway Event Router 3.0 streams event-based data from TransferCFT or Secure Transport using the QLT protocol to multiple target applications such as Sentinel or other event routers or Kafka. Event Router itself on previous versions is already used to scale the volume of monitoring events or to facilitate network configurations. The 3.0 version comes with new use cases such as writing events to Kafka topics or the ability to export QLT events into JSON files. Event Router is able to analyze CFT event data and merge this data into an Axway platform-compatible report for billing purposes. First important usage is to scale the volume of monitoring events between CFTs with buffering and Sentinel. This use case is particularly relevant for TransferCFT due to the potential presence of multiple CFT instances and a high volume of events that need scaling. The second usage is to facilitate network settings. In this use case, the customer might deploy only one Sentinel with CFT products distributed across different networks that have varying security levels. Here, Event Router is recommended to consolidate all monitoring event traffic between CFTs and Sentinel. From now on, TransferCFT must send monitoring events to the Event Router. Event Router generates the usage reporting. To monitor transfer activity, you will need to configure the Event Router to route events to the targeted monitoring tool or tools, Sentinel, the upcoming Workbench, or non-Axway servers. In the next implementation, we will introduce the concept of a reporting environment. The subscription environment represents how a customer has grouped their middleware for reporting usage. Only the production middleware usage must be counted. You may declare multiple environments. Another use case is when you have multiple network domains and you are using Event Router to consolidate all monitoring event traffic per domain. But you still have one overall production environment. In this case, for each network domain, an Event Router is deployed. One of the event routers is configured to manage the CFT usage metrics. The others will route events to the master. Only this event router will generate the subscription report that will contain data from all the CFTs for the customer production environment. Same use case may apply when you want to scale the volume of monitoring events, and because of that, you are using multiple event routers within your production environment. Same as before, one event router is producing the usage report for all the CFTs, and the other event router will route events to this one. A last case may be when the customer defined multiple production environments. In this case, for each domain, one event router will consolidate the usage reporting. The Axway subscription service will be updated for each environment with reports from each of those event routers. Let's see how you configure the reporting. We will need to configure both TransferCFT and event router. As for prerequisites, you must install at least one event router 3.0 March 2025 release or later. Using the administrator account, you can manage the environment and service account used when automatically reporting usage. Make sure you have a production environment defined on the platform under your organization. When manually uploading the report, the only information required is the user with usage reporter role and the environment you need to report the usage. If you implement the automatic upload, you need an Amplify service account. From the service account, you require the client ID and client secret to authenticate and authorize on the platform automatically. In this picture, you can see the service account, CFT_usage_reporting. We have two types of configurations. Event router automatically sends the usage report to the Axway subscription service, or the event router generates reports locally and then the customer manually uploads it on the platform. In both cases, you need to know the production environment identifier on the platform. When automatically sending the report, you need the client ID and the client secret to authenticate and authorize the upload. When generating locally, you will need the path where monthly reports are saved. Here are some configuration samples for automatically sending reports. You can see the stream QLT_input that receives QLT messages from TransferCFT on the 1325 port and write those in a file in the runtime directory. And the new stream, count metrics, that reads info from the first stream, pushes the info into the default SQLite database with a default frequency of 1 day, generates or updates the usage report, and sends the report automatically to the Axway subscription for a given environment using a specific service account. Here is a sample when the usage report is generated locally. We have the stream that receives QLT messages from TransferCFT on the 1325 port and writes those in a file in the runtime directory. And the new stream that reads info from the first stream pushes the info into the default SQLite database and with a default frequency of 1 day generates a usage report in the path defined in the report path parameter. You may configure more options if you want to customize the default behavior. Event Router uses a database for storing data for usage counting. There is some retention configuration for storing the data used for calculating the usage. The cache retention for completed transfers is set to 7 days and usage history is kept by default for 365 days. Optionally, you can configure an HTTP proxy through which the event router connects to send reports to the Amplify platform. TransferCFT can send monitoring events to event router using the Sentinel settings. So you need to point to event router host and port and configure the SSL settings. You must make sure that you send transfer-related events with the level at least summary. To monitor transfer activity, you will need to configure the event router to route events to the targeted monitoring tool. For example, if you want to use Sentinel as your monitoring tool, you must use the event router to proxy the information, as TransferCFT cannot send monitoring events to both the event router or Sentinel. Now let's look at the key takeaways we want you to leave with today. Here are the top 4 questions we typically get around TransferCFT and event router in the context of usage reporting. Is the counting method the same as for secure transport? For secure transport, we count files processed through a single instance. In contrast, TransferCFT is a distributed system, so we count transfers between CFT instances. Do I need to upgrade all my existing event router instances to version 3.0? You only need one event router at version 3.0 per environment to calculate CFT usage. Do I have to pay for event router 3.0 to use it for usage reporting? There's no cost when you use Event Router solely for CFT usage reporting, as it's already included in the CFT core subscription. The only case where a charge applies is when you use Event Router with Kafka, either as part of the Enterprise Pack or through a separate uplift. Is there an alternative to using Event Router 3.0? Event Router 3.0 is the only supported option today. Let's close with the key takeaways on CFT usage reporting. We're enabling you to make data-driven decisions. Usage is tracked across all production CFT instances, requiring a centralized solution. You can automate the process using Event Router to send usage data to reduce errors and improve efficiency. It helps consolidate data from multiple networks and even stream events to Kafka for real-time analytics. And that's a wrap for now. Thanks for watching. If you have any further questions, please contact the Axway team.